They had months to plan, dozens of empty rooms, and one simple promise. But when I arrived, it was clear. This wasn't an accident, and silence sometimes is louder than any door slam. I didn't pack much, just the dress I'd picked 6 months earlier, powder blue with a soft sash, and the shoes I'd only worn once. It was their wedding after all. I wasn't the main character. I was just the sister of the bride, the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who never asks for more than she's given. The invitation had come late. I knew it would. Group chats had already exploded with seating arrangements, bridesmaids drama, vegan menu options, all without me. But I told myself stories. She's just overwhelmed. I live far. They probably assumed I'd call. It's fine. I'll show up, be polite, leave early. My flight was delayed. My suitcase came out last. I hadn't eaten since Denver, but I'd made it. I texted "here" to the family group. 2 red receipts. No reply. At the venue's front desk, the woman behind the counter gave me the look, the one that said, "Don't shoot the messenger." "I'm sorry," she said. "Your room's been reassigned. We're at full capacity." Reassigned? I was told it was under the wedding block, reserved by the family. Her eyes flicked down at her screen. Yes, it was, but it's been moved to a +1 from the groom's side. Ah, a room I'd never seen, now belonging to someone I'd never met, someone who, apparently, mattered more. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't ask her to fix it. I just stood there for a second too long, enough for her to start typing nervously, suggesting overpriced alternatives. And then I turned, walked out. No message in the group chat, no calls, just a silent withdrawal. I sat in the rental car for 40 minutes, shoes off, staring at the trees beyond the parking lot. My phone buzzed twice. Once from my aunt asking where I was, the dress code was light pastels, she reminded me, and once from my sister. It was a photo. Her, in white lace, hair up, laughing. My parents on either side. No caption, no question. Just, "This is what you're missing. Not where are you? Not is everything okay? Just confirmation that the show had gone on, with or without me." I turned off my phone, booked a last-minute cabin on the edge of the county, and spent the weekend reading, drinking cheap wine, and learning that silence could be comforting too, if it was mine to choose. When Monday came, I flew home. No one asked if I'd had a good time. No one mentioned the room. But 2 weeks later, the wedding photographer posted the group photo. I wasn't in it, and no one seemed to notice. They thought I'd vanished quietly. That absence could be edited out. But the thing about exclusion, it creates a debt, and some debts collect interest. The silence stretched longer than I expected. Not just mine, theirs. No one called to ask why I hadn't shown up for the family brunch the next day. No passive-aggressive messages, no sarcastic, "thanks for coming," not even a "we missed you." And in a way, that made it worse. Not because I needed their validation, but because it confirmed something I'd always suspected and never wanted to believe. They had rehearsed my absence. It fit. Like a missing puzzle piece they'd finally stopped trying to force into the wrong space. 3 weeks after the wedding, my mother forwarded me a photo of the baby shower invitation, not with a message, not even with my name, just a JPEG, as if I'd been part of the chain. No one noticed when I didn't RSVP. When the baby was born, my sister posted the news online before she even called me. I found out from a coworker who saw the announcement on Instagram. "Oh, congrats, you're an aunt now." I smiled like I already knew, like I just talked to her. I hadn't. The irony? My niece was beautiful, the kind of child who looks like a promise, and I wanted to love her, truly. But every milestone photo came with a weight I didn't ask to carry. Each month felt like a door I wasn't allowed to knock on. Family exclusion isn't loud. It's not screaming or blaming or slamming dishes. It's 1,000 small omissions. A "forgot to tell you." A "you weren't free anyway." A "we thought you'd be tired." And the worst of all, a smile when they say it, as if your pain is unreasonable. I sent a gift for the baby. Not expensive, thoughtful. A handmade quilt from a little shop I love. I added a note. "Welcome, little one. May you always know how wanted you are." No reply. No thank you. Weeks later, the quilt appeared in a photo, draped on the arm of a chair. No tag, no mention, just a prop. Like me. I started to understand the true cost of emotional debt because every time I forgave, they forgot. Every time I stepped back, they rearranged the furniture as if I'd never been there. Every time I gave silence, they filled it with their own version of events. People assume that distance is anger, but sometimes it's self-respect. Sometimes leaving is the kindest thing you can do for yourself. One night, I got a voicemail from my dad. Slurred speech, background noise from a dinner I wasn't invited to. "Miss you, kiddo," he said. "Your sister says you've been quiet." Quiet. Not hurt, not confused, just quiet. And I realized maybe that's all they ever wanted me to be. They didn't ask where I'd gone because deep down, they never believed I belonged. But what happens when the ghost learns how to haunt? If you've ever felt quietly erased from your own family, share your story in the comments. You're not alone, and your silence deserves to be heard. 13 months. That's how long it had been since the wedding, since I stood in that hotel lobby with a dress in one hand and a ghost of dignity in the other, since I chose not to fight, not to cry, not to beg, just to leave. And somehow they still called it a misunderstanding. A cousin messaged me after all this time. A casual ping, "Hey, are you coming to the baby's first birthday next weekend?" I stared at the text for a full minute. No greeting, no check-in, no "we missed you last year." Just a calendar invite disguised as concern. The invitation came from my sister a few hours later. Not a phone call, not even a voice note, just a digital card with cartoon animals and mismatched fonts. "Emma's turning 1. Come celebrate." Location? Same event venue as the wedding, same town, same silence. They wanted me to come back to the scene of the crime, smiling, wrapped in gift paper, pretending the walls hadn't watched me disappear. At first, I considered it. For Emma, not for them. Because she didn't choose any of this. But something stopped me. It wasn't rage. I'd burned through that. It wasn't pride. That had been buried quietly next to my RSVP last year. It was a single memory. Standing in my old childhood room 3 years ago, packing for a job interview. My sister had barged in, phone pressed to her cheek, laughing. "You'll come back, though, right?" she'd said without looking at me. "Why would I?" She blinked, confused. "Because this is home." And I had smiled, the kind of smile that feels like betrayal. For you. They always assumed I'd orbit them, like a satellite, distant, useful, and never expected to crash. But satellites fall too, quietly, without warning. The morning of the birthday, I made pancakes, sat in my apartment in slippers. I texted a friend, went for a walk, bought flowers for myself. At 5:42 p.m., my mother called. I let it ring. Then I listened to the voicemail. "You missed the cake. Everyone asked about you. Your sister looked hurt." Hurt. Because I didn't pretend, because I didn't show up with a ribbon and a fake laugh, because I didn't decorate their narrative with my presence. That night, my sister messaged me. "Why didn't you come?" I typed, erased, retyped, and then sent. "You didn't expect me." That was all. No explanation. No defense. No invitation for debate. Just a fact. As silent and sharp as the moment I walked out of that hotel lobby over a year ago. The next morning, no one replied. But for the first time, I didn't wait for one. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. After I sent that message, "You didn't expect me." Something shifted. Not in them, in me. The silence that followed wasn't heavy like before. It didn't sit on my chest or wrap around my ankles like guilt. This silence was light, clean, like freshly laundered sheets after someone else finally moves out. But if you've ever stepped away from a family that expected you to stay quiet forever, you know what happens next. They don't ask you back. Not directly. They tug at the corners of your life, little jabs masked as memories, casual photos sent to group chats you were quietly re-added to, posts tagged in places you weren't invited to, laughing faces, inside jokes, names without context, and under all of it, emotional debt. You're expected to repay what you never owed. "You've always been the calm one," my aunt said in a voicemail. "It's not like you to hold a grudge." No, it wasn't. Because for years, I hadn't held anything. They dropped disappointment in my lap and I swept it away before they could even see the mess. But there's a difference between peacekeeping and self-erasure. I started therapy that spring. It wasn't dramatic, no epiphany on a couch, no yelling about my childhood, just soft, steady work. untangling knots that had names like obligation, loyalty, and don't make things worse. My therapist asked, "What would happen if you never went back?" I shrugged. "They'd move on. And you?" "I already have." Except, sometimes I hadn't. Sometimes I still thought about that moment in the hotel, how easily they let me go. Not with cruelty, with indifference. Family exclusion doesn't shout. It forgets you slowly. It deletes you line by line until even you start to wonder if you were ever really written in. One afternoon, a card arrived in the mail. Handwritten, lavender envelope. No return address. Inside was a photo of Emma, scribbled with crayon, clearly by her, and 2 words from my sister. She asks. No explanation, no apology, just the implication. If you care about this child, you'll come back. You'll fold. You'll fill the gap we left you in. You'll pretend nothing happened. But children deserve better than revisionist love. They deserve to know that some doors were closed, not by accident, but by design. And they deserve to see adults take responsibility, not just space. I kept the card, not as a guilt to carry, but as a record. Proof that I'd once mattered, even if they only remembered when it hurt. The hardest part of silent withdrawal isn't leaving. It's staying gone when they finally notice, and still choosing yourself. Spring bled into summer. Emma turned 18 months. I knew this because someone posted it on Facebook. Not to me, not for me, just into the air where they assumed I'd see it. Take the hint, reappear. I didn't. I scrolled past the pictures like I would through an ad for something I used to want. Familiar colors, warm tones, staged affection. But the longer you stay away, the easier it gets to tell what's real and what's curated. I used to be in those frames. Cut off at the edge, holding the diaper bag. The, "can you take the photo and it person?" The one always behind, never remembered. It's strange how people get used to you not being there. Even stranger how you get used to it too. But then, July happened. And July meant my dad's retirement party. The invite was a mass email. Subject: family come together, dad's big day. No personalization, just bullet points, directions, potluck assignments. I wasn't even given a dish to bring, just come if you can. I imagined showing up, parking down the street so no one would see what car I drove, walking in, hearing my name rise like static, then fall flat. An obligatory hug from my mom. A joke about how long it had been. Someone handing me a plate, someone else asking, "So what have you been up to?" without waiting for the answer. And later, as the room emptied, a comment whispered too loud, "Well, at least she came this time." I deleted the email, but it stayed with me. Not as guilt, as clarity. Because I realized something that night while lying in bed, staring at my ceiling fan spinning like time itself. Presence means nothing when it's only used to erase absence. They didn't want me there. They wanted the idea of me. The safe, quiet version who absorbs, smooths over, explains away. The one who sits at the folding table and laughs at jokes not meant for her. The one who says, "It's okay," even when it isn't. That person no longer exists. And the new one? She doesn't show up on demand. I sent a message to my father the day after the party. "I hope your celebration was everything you wanted." It was kind, polite, neutral. It said, "I see you. I'm not angry, but I'm not coming closer either." He replied with a thumbs up. That was it. Years of birthdays, holidays, hospital visits, small favors, emergency airport runs. Answered with a pixelated thumb. I sat there for a while, holding my phone like it had something heavier inside. And then, for the first time, I laughed. Not bitterly, not broken, just free. Because I realized the emotional debt was finally paid. Not by apology, by detachment, by choosing not to owe anymore, and not being expected finally felt like a gift. Fall arrived early that year. Cool mornings, trees already shedding. That quiet hush in the air like the world was holding its breath. It matched how I felt. Not sad, not angry, just still. I spent my weekends cleaning out drawers, not just physical ones, emotional ones too. Old photos, emails, half-finished texts I never sent, drafted with shaking hands then saved, like emotional drafts in a life I didn't publish. Some of them were sharp, some soft. You hurt me. I just wanted to be seen. Why was I so easy to leave out? None of them ever reached their targets, because part of healing is realizing not everyone deserves front row seats to your process. The last drawer I tackled had an old shoebox. Inside, saved cards, printed emails, and 2 ticket stubs from a concert my sister and I went to years ago. I remembered that night. She had cried in the parking lot because her boyfriend ghosted her. I held her for an hour, missing the opening act, my coat draped over both our knees. She never asked how I was that night, and I never told her I was quietly crumbling, fresh off a breakup of my own. That's how it always went. Family exclusion in its softest form. They didn't push me out, they just pulled each other closer until there was no space left for me. I put the box back, not out of nostalgia, but closure. One Saturday morning, while I watered my plants and hummed to an old jazz record, my phone rang. An unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. A woman's voice, soft, a little uncertain. Hi, this is Jessica. I'm Emma's nanny. I hope it's okay I'm calling. Emma's been asking about her aunt lately. She found a photo, one with you holding her as a baby. She keeps asking why she doesn't know you. Pause. I didn't want to call without permission, but your number was listed in the old contact file. I guess I just thought you should know. I sat very still, not because I didn't expect it, because I had. Not now, not this way, but someday. The questions always come. Children see what adults bury. They ask the things we're too proud, too afraid, or too stubborn to answer. And now the question floated toward me like a balloon tied to an invisible string. Where have you been? I didn't call back, not immediately. Instead, I sat on the balcony until the sun slipped behind the buildings. Let the quiet wrap around me, not as punishment, but peace. Because sometimes silent withdrawal is not absence, it's presence, just somewhere else, in a home that is mine, in a life I didn't have to fight to be invited into. In moments where love doesn't require explanation or permission, that night I lit a candle, not for them, for me. For the girl who stood in that hotel lobby, unwelcome, unseen, and chose to walk away instead of beg for a key. She didn't disappear. She became someone I could finally recognize. 2 weeks later, another envelope arrived. No return address, but the handwriting, round, unsure, wasn't adult. Inside, a folded sheet of construction paper, crayon drawings, shaky hearts, and one sentence in bright purple marker. Auntie, can you come to my park? Underneath, smaller, in grown-up writing, Emma drew this. She talks about you often. No pressure, but thought you'd want to see. No name signed, but I knew. It was a warm Saturday. I stood by the kitchen counter holding that letter like it was made of glass. My first instinct was to fold it back up, place it in a drawer next to the rest of the unopened history I kept in soft paper and sharp memory. But then I read it again. Auntie. Not my name, not a label assigned by DNA, a role, a hope. I called my therapist. She's a child, I said. She didn't do anything. And I'm scared if I show up, they'll think I'm forgiving everything. My therapist paused, then gently. Forgiveness isn't attendance. Presence doesn't mean permission. That sentence stuck with me for days. I didn't tell anyone. I just showed up at the park. At the time, written in faint pencil at the corner of the paper, 11 Nag. I wore neutral colors. Nothing too loud, nothing that screamed, I've returned. I wasn't here for them. I was here for the little girl with the purple crayon voice. Emma spotted me first. She blinked, froze, then beamed, ran. I opened my arms. It felt like history exhaled, like maybe not everything they broke stayed broken. We played for 20 minutes. No interruptions, no parents hovering. She showed me the bumpy slide and the spinny thing and a leaf she'd found that looks like a dinosaur foot. Then she asked, "Why don't you come to my house?" And there it was, the debt collectors, not the child, the unspoken presence behind her question. I crouched beside her. I live in a different place, I said carefully. She frowned. But you're my aunt. I am, I smiled. And I always will be. Later, as she ran off to play with another kid, I turned toward the benches. My sister was watching, from a distance, her face unreadable. We didn't speak. Not then. She didn't walk over. I didn't wave. But something passed between us, a recognition. not of peace, of weight, of all that still hung in the air, suspended like a conversation paused mid-sentence. I left before Emma noticed, slipped away with a crayon heart folded in my pocket. I didn't cry, because for the first time in a long time I had shown up on my terms. Not to fill a gap in their narrative, not to patch what they refused to repair, but to honor something small and unbroken, a child's belief that love, real love, shows up even when it's hard. After the park, there was a shift, subtle, like a draft through a closed window. Something had moved, even if no one admitted it out loud. A week passed, then two. Then a text from my sister. No emojis, no punctuation, just, "She hasn't stopped talking about you." It landed like a stone on still water, ripples spreading in places I'd tried to keep calm. I typed out 10 replies, deleted them all. In the end, I sent, "She's easy to love. No more, no less." And then, silence. Again. Our old language, but this time it didn't burn. It didn't ache. It was just familiar, like an old coat you know doesn't fit anymore, but still remember the weight of on your shoulders. For weeks, I wondered if I'd broken something by going to the park. Had I reopened the debt account? Was I being sucked back into the rhythm of their emotional bookkeeping? One act of warmth, 10 assumed obligations, 20 unspoken expectations. I felt it in the way my mother called, casually, as if nothing had happened. "How's work?" she asked. And then, your sister's been under a lot of pressure lately." There it was, the quiet weapon of emotional debt. Your presence is needed now, because she's fragile, because it's family, because you were always the one who didn't make things harder. It took everything in me not to slip back into that role, not to drive over, bring food, offer help, clean up the mess I didn't make. Instead, I said, "She has support, I'm sure." Not cold, not cruel, just boundary, a word I never learned at that table growing up, but one I was fluent in now. A few days later, I got a message from the nanny again. "Emma wants to draw with you. She says her pink marker works better when you're there." I laughed, alone in my kitchen, that strange kind of joy that's laced with grief, because she doesn't know what she's carrying. She doesn't know how many adults are projecting their guilt onto her tiny hands. I replied, "Tell her I'm keeping Tuesdays open, just in case." No promise, no apology, just a space, a gentle place where love could grow without the vines of family exclusion choking the roots. A space that didn't ask me to forget, only to begin again if I chose to. The next Tuesday, I went back to the park. Emma ran into my arms again, and this time she handed me a folded paper right away. It was a drawing of a house with a tall window. Inside, a stick figure with dark hair. Underneath, my auntie's room. No one ever gave me a room at the wedding, but this was better. Drawn in pink crayon. No RSVP required. The next few months passed in soft patterns. Tuesdays at the park became a quiet ritual. Not always consistent. Weather, colds, surprise errands. But consistent enough to feel like something real was growing. Something small. Something ours. Emma would run into view, holding something new each time. A leaf, a drawing, a fact about bugs she'd clearly misunderstood, but repeated with full authority. And I would listen, not out of obligation, not to prove anything, just because I wanted to. It was a strange, new kind of love. One not rooted in guilt, or shared holidays, or obligatory birthdays, but in eye contact, in giggles, in unspoken safety. One day, she asked, "Do you live far away because you don't like my mommy?" I paused. The air shifted. The swings creaked in the wind. "I live far because I needed space," I said carefully, "but I like you, very much." She nodded like she understood more than her years allowed. Children don't need the full story. They just need truth wrapped in safety. And I'd spent too long learning how to offer that, to myself first, and now to her. Later that week, my sister texted, "I heard you've been coming." No question, no emotion, just an acknowledgement. It took me 3 days to answer. I finally wrote, "Yes, Emma invited me." She left it at that. But the following Tuesday, I saw her across the grass, not approaching, just standing, watching. Emma didn't notice or pretended not to. She dragged me to the sandbox and insisted we build a castle for grown-ups. When I asked what that meant, she said, "A place where people don't yell or leave." I swallowed hard, kept building. That night, I got a photo from my sister, Emma asleep on the couch, cradling the crayon drawing I'd helped her color. Under it, "You're good with her." 3 words. And yet, it felt like more than I'd gotten in years. But I didn't reply, not because I was angry, because I had learned something most people never do. You don't have to respond just because someone finally noticed your absence. Awareness isn't repair. Acknowledgement isn't apology. And attention isn't love. Sometimes people miss the version of you that kept the peace, not the one that finally chose it. The more I showed up for Emma, the less I needed to show up for them. She never asked me to forget. She just asked me to be there. And somehow, that healed parts of me they never even saw as broken. The debt was no longer mine. I had paid in full, not with forgiveness, not with return, but with presence on my own terms. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than any room key, more than any "we didn't mean it," more than any place at the table they forgot to set. Because now, I had my own. A year and a half after the wedding, I received another envelope. This time, my name was written clearly. No childish scrawl, just my sister's hand, the same as on every childhood lunch note, every shared birthday card we made for Dad, every apology I used to write but never received. Inside, a photo. Emma at the kitchen table, covered in markers, coloring a card. On it, 3 words in purple crayon. "Come visit soon." No other message, no attached guilt, just an open door. And here's the thing no one tells you about silent withdrawal. Eventually, someone will ask you to speak, to break it, to explain, to perform. But when silence has been your boundary, breaking it comes at a cost, not just to pride, to healing. Because the moment you make yourself legible again, they may start rewriting the script, turning your return into a reconciliation, your kindness into compliance. So I waited, for days, then weeks. And in that waiting, I realized I wasn't unsure because I still hurt. I was unsure because for the first time they were reaching toward me, and I no longer knew what they were reaching for. Remorse? Repair? Or just relief that I hadn't vanished forever. One morning, I called the nanny, asked if Emma would like to visit my place instead, to paint, bake cookies, maybe plant something in a little pot she could take home. She squealed through the phone. "Yes, but can it be pink?" So that Saturday, I bought tiny pots and pink seeds and cookie dough we never actually baked because she spent 2 hours playing vet with my dog. It was messy, chaotic, perfect. When my sister came to pick her up, she hovered in the doorway. I offered tea. She hesitated, then sat. For 20 minutes, we danced around the real things: school schedules, weather, how fast Emma was growing. Then, suddenly, "I never meant to hurt you." I didn't flinch, didn't nod, just looked at her. And in that silence, she added, "I thought you'd always be there. I didn't realize we were making it harder for you to stay." There it was. Not a fix, not a reset, but a recognition. And in family, that's sometimes the closest thing to justice. I didn't say, "It's okay," because it wasn't. But I did say, "Thank you for saying that." She didn't cry. I didn't either. We just sat, in a quiet that finally felt shared. After they left, I stood in the doorway for a long while, and I thought about the room at the wedding, the one I never got, the one that made all the unspoken truth finally echo. I had spent a long time believing that being excluded meant I had to prove something, to return stronger, wiser, louder, to make them see me. But now I understood. Sometimes being left out is what makes you step in, into your own life, your own voice, your own peace. Emma still sends drawings. We still have Tuesdays. Sometimes her mom joins, sometimes not. And that's okay, because I didn't come back. I built something forward, and I didn't argue. I just left. But this time, I stayed gone long enough for them to notice what they never expected me to become. Whole, unapologetic, and finally, home.